During the Cold War, concealed behind the Iron Curtain, the Soviet Union harbored a secret space agenda with Mars as its destination. Unlike NASA's transparent and media-friendly approach, the Soviet Union's missions were carried out with utmost confidentiality. Only a few insiders knew of the Soviets' endeavors that would catapult them to unprecedented heights in the space race. Fortunately, NASA just found declassified evidence of the Soviets landing on Mars. Why did the Soviets hide these missions in the first place? How many missions did the Soviets attempt to Mars? Join us as we delve into the details of the Soviet Mars missions and unravel the reasons behind their decades-long veil of secrecy. Together, we will uncover the fascinating truths hidden from the public eye for so long. The Cold War, defined by intense ideological and political rivalry between the United States and the Soviet Union, delivered technological progress that pushed humanity toward the stars. The space race, a vital component of this era, showcased geopolitical competition and led to a remarkable era of scientific and technological breakthroughs. In the wake of several setbacks and humiliations endured by the United States in preceding years, the seemingly invincible Soviet Union appeared to be gaining the upper hand in the race. The US witnessed a series of disappointments, from the shock of Sputnik's launch to Yuri Gagarin's historic spaceflight and the tragic Apollo 1 command module fire. The path to the moon was far from being solely paved with resounding successes and unrestrained jubilation. With perseverance and dedication, the US's Apollo 11 became a success, with overwhelming enthusiasm and a live television broadcast that captivated 500 million viewers. However, Soviet scientists were silently working on a highly classified project that could have surpassed the significance of a lunar landing. Their ultimate objective was to send a human to Mars, a goal that, had it been accomplished, would have predated the aspirations still held today by figures like Elon Musk by nearly half a century. So, what were the origins of these groundbreaking plans, and why did it take several decades before the world knew about these missions? The core of the matter can be summarized as follows. Admitting mistakes is not something anyone appreciates. This was especially true for a superpower facing intense scrutiny during the Cold War, stuck with casualties and rumors of fake satellites. As history tells us, the Cold War era witnessed relentless competition between the United States and the Soviet Union, each striving to assert its superiority in various domains. This fierce rivalry extended far beyond the bloody proxy conflicts in Korea, Vietnam, and Afghanistan. Indeed, the struggle between the West and the East spilled into nearly every aspect of politics, economics, and technology. Given this background, it becomes understandable why the Soviet Union handled setbacks and failures by skillfully ignoring or concealing them. Clear evidence reveals that as far back as October 1960, about 9 years before the renowned Apollo 11 mission, Soviet scientists and engineers had already redirected their focus towards Mars, going beyond the moon as their exploration target. In the early 1960s, the Soviet Union launched its missions to explore Mars. This marked a significant milestone with pioneering contributions that paved the way for future expeditions to this enigmatic red planet. According to the scientific community, Mars is the only planet in the solar system that closely resembles Earth. With a rotation period of 24 hours and 37 minutes, and an angled tilt to its orbital plane measuring 64.8 degrees, similar to Earth's 64.5 degrees, the planet experiences seasonal changes like on Earth. Furthermore, evidence indicates that Mars may have hosted vegetation and water in its past, adding to its intriguing ambiance. For the Soviets, the Mars program was a collection of unmanned spacecraft missions investigating the Martian environment. The Soviet Union's first Mars mission, Mars 1, commenced on November 1, 1962, lifting off from the Baikonur Cosmodrome in Kazakhstan. The spacecraft was propelled into space by the Molniya 8K-78 rocket, an upgraded version of the R-7 Semyorka intercontinental ballistic missile recognized as the pinnacle of Soviet rocket technology. Mars 1 was an automatic interplanetary station, with its primary objective being a flyby of Mars, making the Soviet Union the first nation to reach the Red Planet. The mission aimed to collect essential data about the interplanetary space between Earth and Mars, explore Mars's magnetic field, and detect any magnetic field in its environment. Mars 1 was also expected to capture images and collect other valuable scientific data about the planet and its atmosphere. Mars 1 was ingeniously designed with a cylindrical body, 2 solar panel wings, and several antennae, guaranteeing uninterrupted communication with Earth throughout the mission. The spacecraft was equipped with various instruments, including a magnetometer for studying interplanetary and Martian magnetic fields, detectors for meteoroids, cosmic rays, and micrometeoroids, and a plasma ion trap for the study of solar plasma, among other advanced tools of that era. Additionally, Mars 1 was equipped with a radio system specifically for transmitting photographic images back to Earth. Unfortunately, a significant setback occurred on March 21, 1963, halfway through the spacecraft's journey toward Mars. Communication from Mars 1 suddenly ceased, leaving mission control in the Soviet Union unable to communicate with or control the spacecraft. Upon investigating the failure, it was deduced that a malfunction had occurred in the spacecraft's orientation sensors, leading to excessive power consumption by the onboard systems and ultimately resulting in a total power loss. Following this setback, subsequent Mars 2M spacecraft were destroyed during launch. By 1971, the Soviet Union had made significant advancements with the M4 program, encompassing the Mars 2 and Mars 3 missions. At the same time, the United States was preparing to launch its robotic space probe, Mariner 9. During the early months of 1971, the USSR was fully prepared to launch both the Mars 2 and Mars 3 missions, with the primary objective of achieving a soft landing on the surface of the Red Planet. These missions used identical spacecraft, each featuring an orbiter module and a lander module equipped with a rover designed for in-depth surface exploration on Mars. The Mars 2 and 3 descent modules were to take images from the surface and provide data on meteorological conditions, atmospheric composition, and mechanical and chemical properties of the soil. On May 19, 1971, the Soviets launched Mars 2, and after 6 months, it reached the Red Planet on November 27, 1971. About 4.5 hours before reaching Mars, the spacecraft released the descent module. However, an unexpected problem occurred during the descent. The descent module entered the Martian atmosphere at a steeper angle than intended, traveling at roughly 6 kilometers per second. The onboard computer issued an erroneous command during the landing maneuvers, causing the lander to hit the surface before the system could activate the parachute. The descent lander crash-landed at 45 degrees south and 30 degrees west, bearing the Soviet Union's coat of arms on the Martian surface. The space vehicle was lost. Meanwhile, the orbiter engine executed a burn to place the spacecraft into 1380 by a 940-kilometer 18-hour orbit around Mars, inclined at 48.9 degrees. The scientific instruments were typically activated for about 30 minutes near periapsis, the point in the orbit closest to Mars. Another notable contribution to Mars exploration by the Soviet Union was the Mars 3 mission. Launched as part of the early 1970s Soviet Mars program, the Mars 3 mission represented the second phase following the Mars 2 mission, which had attempted a Mars landing but unfortunately ended in failure. The Mars 3 spacecraft, an engineering marvel of its time, consisted of an orbiter and a lander module. The orbiter was equipped with various scientific instruments, including cameras, spectrometers, and radiometers, carefully crafted to study the Martian atmosphere from its orbit. The lander also featured cameras, temperature and pressure sensors, and soil samplers, aimed at conducting an in-depth investigation of the Martian surface. On December 2, 1971, the Mars 3 lander accomplished a remarkable feat, successfully becoming the first spacecraft to land on the Martian surface. It promptly transmitted images to Earth, marking a momentous milestone in space exploration. Regrettably, this success was short-lived, as communication with the lander abruptly ceased after 14.5 seconds. V.G. Perminov, the leading designer for Mars and Venus spacecraft at the Lavochkin Design Bureau in the Soviet Union, disclosed that Mars 3 transmitted a partial image before going dark. The photo showed only a gray background with no discernible details. In collaboration with scientists and engineers, Perminov assessed the peculiar image, seeking additional data to unravel the mystery behind the rover's sudden loss of contact. Drawing from historical accounts during World War II, Perminov recalled incidents where British radio operators experienced transmitter malfunctions during dust storms in the Lebanese deserts. He deduced that Mars 3 lost contact with Earth due to a powerful dust storm that arose during the rover's landing. Subsequently, he verified his deduction when images from Mars orbiters continued to capture pictures of the Martian surface, revealing that the dust storm had entirely obscured the topography. Despite these insights, the Mars lander and rover's whereabouts remained unknown. Mars 3's data yielded essential discoveries about the red planet, including a surface pressure considerably lower than Earth's and a predominantly carbon dioxide atmosphere. The onboard instruments recorded a surface temperature of -110 degrees Celsius, providing the first tangible evidence of the extreme atmospheric conditions on Mars. Despite its brief operational time, the Mars 3 mission achieved a significant feat by capturing the first-ever image from Mars's surface. The grainy, monochrome picture showcased the desolate landscape and offered valuable insights into the red planet's atmosphere and surface. However, the Mars 3 orbiter experienced a partial loss of fuel, preventing it from achieving its intended 25-hour orbit. Instead, the engine executed a shortened burn, placing the spacecraft in a longer 12-day, 19-hour orbit around Mars, with an inclination similar to Mars 2, 48.9 degrees. In addition, Mars 3 carried a small Mars rover named Prop M. This remote-controlled vehicle weighed only 5 kilograms and featured a square-shaped body with cutting-edge Russian technological innovations. The rover roamed freely across the planet's red dunes, supported by 2 flat skis to ensure ground clearance. The rover was equipped with detection bars to avoid collisions with rocks, unexpected falls, and rugged terrain. It also carried instruments to measure the strength and density of the Martian soil. Linked to the lander by a 15-meter-long cable, the rover's communications faced significant time delays, taking around 5 to 20 minutes for signals to travel between Earth and Mars. Although the system was relatively primitive, the testing phase proved successful. Upon landing, Mars 3 effectively separated from the rover and entered its designated trajectory. Perminov vividly recalled the tense atmosphere in the control room as everyone eagerly awaited the rover's activation. However, they had to endure an agonizing hour before receiving any signal from the rover. In his book, Perminov described how the leading engineer, Kadarev, commanded to decrease the signal strength due to its intensity. Subsequently, telephotometer data were transmitted, displaying a gray background devoid of discernible details. Within a mere 14.5 seconds, the signal abruptly vanished, leaving the entire Russian space program puzzled and seeking answers for this sudden halt. Following extensive discussions with scientists and engineers, Perminov revisited the peculiar image, determined to uncover any additional data that might explain the mystery behind the rover's sudden loss of contact. Eventually, Perminov concluded that a powerful dust storm had emerged on Mars during the rover's landing, cutting off its communication with Earth. That marked the end of the Mars 3 mission, which was considered successful. On February 10, 1974, the Mars 4 orbiter was launched and successfully reached Mars. However, due to a transistor 2T312 flaw that caused degradation during the journey, the retro rockets designed to slow the craft into Mars's orbit failed to fire. As a result, Mars 4 flew by the planet at a distance of 2,200 kilometers. Despite the setback, it captured one swath of pictures and some radio occultation data, marking the first detection of the night-side ionosphere on Mars. After the flyby, it continued to transmit interplanetary data from a heliocentric orbit. Taking another shot at Mars on February 12, 1974, Mars 5 successfully reached Mars and was inserted into an elliptical orbit with an inclination of 35.3 degrees. The spacecraft's 2 photo-television cameras, nearly integrated with the planet's rotation, could be commanded to take 12 pictures during each close approach. The Vega camera utilized a wide-area 52mm lens with color filters, while the Zulfar camera utilized a telescopic 350mm lens and long-pass orange filter. Images were transmitted in a rapid 220-line mode, and selected pictures were retransmitted at 880 or 1760-line resolution. Mars 5 collected data for 22 orbits until a loss of pressurization in the transmitter housing occurred, ending its operation. During operation, Mars 5 managed to capture about 100 photos. Unfortunately, 2 weeks later, this space probe also experienced a failure. Not backing down, on August 5, 1973, the Soviets launched Mars 6, which entered an intermediate Earth orbit before setting course on a trajectory towards Mars. It arrived at Mars on March 12, 1974. The descent module separated from the bus and entered the Martian atmosphere at a speed of 5.6 kilometers per second. After slowing down, the parachute opened, allowing the module to collect data and transmit it directly to the bus for immediate relay to Earth. Unfortunately, contact with the descent module was lost, likely during the retro-rocket firing or impact with the surface at an estimated 61 meters per second. Mars 6 landed in the Margaret-Terra region and transmitted 224 seconds of data, providing the first atmospheric data from Mars. However, much of the transmitted data was unreadable due to a flaw in a transistor that caused system degradation during its journey to Mars. On August 9, 1973, Mars 7 successfully lifted off and entered an intermediate Earth orbit before beginning its journey toward Mars. It arrived at Mars on March 9, 1974. However, a problem with one of the onboard systems, either attitude control or retro rockets, caused the landing probe to separate prematurely. Mars 7 missed the planet by 1,300 kilometers, approximately 4 hours before the planned encounter. The early separation was likely due to a computer error caused by system degradation during the trip to Mars. Both the lander and the bus continued on their heliocentric orbits. But how did the Soviet officials handle the situation? Despite declaring the launches of these probes an absolute state secret, it was inevitable that with more and more missions sent into orbit, the world would learn of them. To handle cases where a Mars mission became unwarranted due to a false start, the space probes were simply not designated. In instances where the mission ended up in Earth orbit instead of reaching Mars, the probes were disguised as satellites under names like Cosmos or Sputnik, even if they didn't exactly fit the traditional definitions of those satellite programs. The Mars 2 and 3 missions were shrouded in mystery when launched in 1971, with the Soviet Union keeping their results a closely guarded secret. The press was only informed about the successful launch of the 2 orbiters. It wasn't until the 1990s that mission details were made public. For decades, space race enthusiasts and experts pondered what had transpired after the dust storm interrupted all communications. In the end, the Soviets' Mars program turned out to be one of the most significant failures in the history of spaceflight. Out of the 14 probes intended to reach and thoroughly study the Red Planet, only one achieved relative success. The rest faced various setbacks and obstacles, leading to disappointments in their attempts to explore Mars. For many years, the fate of the Mars lander and rover remained shrouded in mystery. However, in 2007, renewed hope surfaced when U.S. researchers released a high-resolution image of Mars. This urged the space community to search for Mars 3 or any remnants of the mission. In 2011, a space enthusiast claimed to have spotted light-colored debris resembling the Mars 3 parachute, prompting further analysis to confirm its connection to the mission. Nevertheless, the small rover's whereabouts remain unknown. Despite its limited scope, the Mars 3 mission provided valuable lessons that improved subsequent missions, enhancing our understanding of the challenges in reaching and exploring the Red Planet. Decades of exploration have placed Mars at the forefront of NASA's scientific endeavors. The allure of uncovering extraterrestrial life and unraveling the planet's geological and climatic history has fascinated scientists worldwide. As we approach the mid-2020s, NASA's upcoming missions to Mars, such as the Mars Sample Return mission and preparations for potential crewed missions, promise to chart new territory in interplanetary research. This will be a huge step forward in technological advancement and human space exploration. Among these ventures, the Mars Sample Return (MSR) mission stands as a monumental undertaking in the history of planetary exploration. A collaboration between NASA and the European Space Agency, ESA, aims to transport precious Martian samples back to Earth, providing scientists with a closer look at the planet's geology and the possibility of past life. The groundwork for the MSR mission was laid by the Mars 2020 Perseverance rover, an impressive car-sized rover designed to explore the Jezero crater, an ancient river delta site. Equipped with a sophisticated range of scientific instruments, Perseverance's primary mission was to investigate the region's geology and climate. The rover also identifies and gathers rock and soil samples that might hold evidence of past microbial life. Carefully packaged, these samples are intentionally left on the Martian surface for future retrieval. However, their actual return to Earth entails a complex multi-mission process. The next step involves launching a sample retrieval lander to Mars, incorporating a small ESA-provided rover to retrieve the stored samples. Once the samples are acquired, the rover will transport them back to the lander, placing them into a Mars ascent vehicle, a small rocket launching them into Mars's orbit. After that, an Earth return orbiter, the third component of this mission, will capture the sample-filled canister and initiate its journey back to our planet. Upon reaching Earth, the canister will be safely landed, granting scientists around the globe direct access to Martian material for in-depth analysis. In well-equipped Earth-based laboratories, these Martian samples can be studied with advanced techniques beyond the capabilities of the most sophisticated remote instruments on Mars rovers. The wealth of data from these analyses will yield invaluable insights into Mars's historical and present conditions, its geological evolution, and the possibility of past life on the Red Planet. The Mars Sample Return mission marks a transformative phase in our quest to understand the secrets of this neighboring celestial body. The Soviets' Mars program, though marked as one of the most notable failures in the history of spaceflight, undeniably laid a firm groundwork for future Mars exploration endeavors. While their attempts to reach Mars were met with challenges and setbacks, the knowledge gained from their missions has proven invaluable for other space agencies. Lessons learned from their experiences have prompted technological advancements, an understanding of interplanetary travel complexities, and fortification of spacecraft resilience. These lessons also enable us to approach Mars exploration with greater confidence and chances of success. Thank you for watching another episode of Voyager. While you are here, click the video on your screen for more quality content.